inside the ropes where we talk boxing all the time. So Dominic, we got a special guest on the show, man. Introduce our special guest for today.
Well, today I have my good friend Ed Presley.
Right.
We watch boxing matches together. Sometimes we debate about boxing all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes I just argue with him just to have an argument because I'm bored.
Just keep it going.
Actually, I let him, come to some of the fights. He, learning to work the corner with me. So he knows boxing, but it's a different view of boxing when you're sitting in the corner.
Sure.
And you know what I'm saying? He worked with me in a fight that we were in
Florida,
Destin, Florida.
Okay.
I almost fired him, but
no.
Actually, he did a good job.
That's good.
So he did a good job, and he's learning, the outside of the ropes as far as trying to be a good corner man.
Sure.
Good cut man, good trainer.
Okay, so Ed, you know the sport, man. You the man that know the sports, and you talk sports with my man Dominic here, and boxing and everything. So you work the corner. So tell us about that experience. How was that for you for the first time?
It was a great experience, man. I had the opportunity to do it in front of some of the greats out there. You have Evander Holyfield out there.
Yeah.
Chop Corley, a whole bunch of the guys was there.
Okay.
Roy Jones Jr.
Right.
You had Reggie Johnson.
Okay.
He had some. It was
Choppy.
Yeah.
Choppy.
What's some Nate Campbell.
Nate Campbell.
Wow. We had some big names out there.
We down there. We had a good time in Florida. We had a good weekend actually.
All right, sounds good. So now, what do you guys when y'all are not on the camera, we ain't doing this show? What do y'all like to talk about? As brothers, as far as like the boxing game and in the industry itself.
Well, we get on the
debates y'all get on.
Cause we basically compare fighters now to fighters of our era when we were growing up.
Sure.
The difference in boxers not boxing each other, and who we like up and coming, and he's a Floyd man.
Okay.
And I always, I say something just to dispute
just to rile him up
so he can start talking.
Yeah, so he can start talking about his man. That's what's up. Because I like boxing, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, those are some of the fighters that I really enjoyed. So I can understand how the conversation could get a little heated sometimes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't really get heated. We just both voice our opinion on things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I look at it like, boxers of that era were a lot different. They were cut from a different cloth from the boxers of this era. You know what I'm saying? Everybody nowadays, well, I'm gonna fight him, but I'm not gonna fight him.
Okay.
Or I might box him, but I'm not gonna box. Come on, man.
Come on.
Get a fans. The people that made you rich,
give them what they're
fans,
looking for. Right.
I believe in giving them what. Give them what they want to see.
Sure. So that's how you feel about that, Ed? You think the boxers from our era, the ones that we like, are different from the ones that are out now?
Most definitely. I like the majority of the boxers from back then. I actually got educated from my man Rollo, as far as Sugar Ray Leonard.
That's Rollo Wilcott now.
My man Rollo, shout out to you. I was always a big Sugar Ray fan, but not to the extent that he is. So he sent me the whole bunch of DVDs to look at and watch the amateurs and to learn to say that how Floyd would have had problems in that era with those guys. They was bigger hitters at welterweight. So I actually sat back and looked at, analyzed Sugar Ray Leonard and seeing how he was a killer.
He was. I totally agree, because he was one of my favorite boxers, and it was something that caused me to want to, fall in love with the sport. Of course, we loved Muhammad Ali. He was a technical fighter, though. Muhammad was a big fighter, and did a lot of things that made you say, okay, where did that come from, or why did he do that, and how did he do that? So those are some of the things that was interesting to me, growing up.
Well, you gotta look at another thing too. The fighters of that era, they always wanted to see who was the best, who was number uno. It was like sometimes back then it was like one belt. So that's why you had the great classics of. If you look at Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns, that's the best three-round fight I've probably ever seen. And those guys wanted to compete. Sugar Ray Leonard fought Tommy Hearns. The best at that time fought the best. It wasn't, well, I'm not gonna fight you because you're promoted by somebody else. You had to get out there, and show what you were made of.
And really box.
And that's one thing I respect about Muhammad Ali. If you look at Muhammad Ali He fought everybody.
Sure.
He beat 4 Olympic gold medalists. how many people you know? He beat Floyd Patterson.
Right.
He beat Joe Frazier. He beat George Foreman.
That's true.
And he beat Leon Spinks.
Exactly.
Those are 4 gold medalists. Nobody else ever done that.
Wow.
And then he fought Ken Norton, who gave him problems a bunch of times. He fought Joe Frazier, who took him to life and death situations.
Sure.
He fought George Foreman, who everybody was afraid of.
Yeah. George was a heavy hitter, man.
Right.
I mean,
and then you know what?
Guy.
He fought these guys more than once.
Yes, he did.
So you know.
So he wanted to know for himself that he was number one. It goes back to that thing that he was the greatest, and he didn't mind proving that, right?
He said he was.
I think now it's more of a business.
Okay. Talk to me about that.
Talent and skills, but it's business now. Like, I think a lot, if you look back then, they look at it, a lot of those fighters like Muhammad Ali, no disrespect, but he ended up signing a blank check. And so it's like more like, I'm not going to let you get over on me this time. But I think what's happening is it's getting mixed up with still fighting the best fighter out there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's moved from pride. It's moved a little bit away from, hey, I want to prove that I'm the best in the world too.
I'm not going to let you get
this
over
may not be the best business deal for me to make it this time.
Well, you got to look at it back then too. In '73, Ali signed a check for $5 million.
Sure.
Well, how much you think $5 million is worth now?
Man.
Wow.
I mean, like $5 million back then at 1973. It was a
lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
You know, compared to now.
That's true.
These guys, and then they got taxes to pay out of that. But Ali made a lot of money too. You know, in his time. Yeah. And I think, besides being business-wise back then, like he said, those guys wanted to prove who was the best. I mean,
exactly.
You know, and that's what I respected about those guys.
Everything was different back then. Even with, if you go back, even with football and basketball, competition level, the hunger was just different.
Yeah.
It's more, like I said, it's business now.
Right.
It's all about money now. You know, and I ain't mad at them. If they want to get it, and if they, like my thing is, if you sleep good at night with the decisions you're making.
There you go.
Then so be it.
Then so be it. So during that time, would you educate me for a moment? During that time, would Muhammad Ali also have a trainer and a business manager, or somebody that oversaw his finances, or who would, during that time, who would you trust?
Well, Angelo Dundee was just his trainer.
Okay.
He didn't make any business decisions.
Okay.
Actually, he had a brother. Brother Muhammad was from the Nation of Islam.
Sure.
He was helping him, manage his money.
Right.
And I don't think back then they took managing your money as serious. Now you got accountants. Now you got
right.
It's serious business now. Now you understand. You learn from mistakes of the past. You know, we have to, like, even in the record business, you have to learn. You know.
And that's why I asked that question, because if you see the difference, the subtle differences now, who would have done what back then, or did it not just get done, or some things fall through the cracks, like, hey, tax evasion, or you didn't pay this on this particular bill. And that's why I wanted to know.
Well, you gotta look at boxing like this. When a boxer gets his check, if he's fighting for 1.5 million, that's a check that he gets, 1.5 million. The tax is not coming out of that. He has to have enough discipline to take that money and pay the taxes. Okay. But you know how hard it is to say, if I give him $5 million and say, all right, Ed, make sure you pay your taxes. He might, I'm gonna try to hold on until it just, we do
that with a paycheck.
We do that with a little paycheck, So,
exactly.
It's hard, So the time frame back then, the way fighters were back then, you look at a guy like Sugar Ray Robinson. Sure. At one point, he was 128-1.
Wow.
At one point now, he was 128-1.
Wow.
And he get right before the fight and tell him, I'm not gonna fight unless I get $10,000 more.
Really?
And they give him the money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but they weren't fighting for big purses like they are now.
Like they are now.
So now, a lot of time when money come into play, people get funky.
So let me ask you this. This question.
Right.
As you train in Dominic, and as you have a lot of fighters fighting for you, how do you advise them now in 2014? What advice do you give them just starting out? Hey, I'm at the gym, I want to box, I want to be professional.
When you at this level and you first starting off, you're not really making that much money to mess up. Right. So if you're making a couple $1,000, that's not really a lot of money to mess up. Granted, you still have to pay your taxes on it.
Sure, you have to.
But the IRS probably ain't gonna come at you if you don't pay $600 off of like $2,500.
When you start being disciplined with that, when you get to the big stage, you won't have any issues.
If you make it to the big stage.
If you make it,
you know what I'm saying? But you gotta look at it like a lot of time a guy get called. Let's just say, for example, let's say you're in the gym training, and I call you, yo, Edwin, I got a fight for you for 15 grand. And if you're hungry and you don't have no money, you're gonna say, I'll take that.
I'll take that.
And after you pay all your bills, if you don't have enough money to pay taxes, then you're gonna be like, well, I'll get it next time. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you gotta look at the situation of the fighter. His parents might be in a bad situation, you know. So a lot of people don't, you know, you have a lot of journeymen out there who fight just to, that's their job.
Just like a job, job.
Yeah, and that's something that people need to know, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this particular show, because you know, you don't know the ins and outs. You don't know what you're looking at getting into when you first say, "Oh, I have a desire just to box," but there's so much more.
Yeah, boxing is lucrative. It's a lucrative sport. I mean, you know, you got the richest athlete in the world is a boxer.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So, but now you got other boxers in poverty. You know what I'm saying? So you got you know, like here's the thing: when a kid's growing up nowadays, if he's big, the reason why we don't have any big heavyweights who really make all the money is because when a kid is young or he's growing up and he got a little talent, it's we're gonna have him play football or we're gonna have him play basketball. Just imagine if Kevin Garnett was a boxer with his long arm. Imagine if LeBron James was a boxer with skill. He started boxing when he was young. Or imagine Ray Lewis. Somebody like that.
Shoot, your man you had here the other day, the basketball boy.
Oh, Carlos Powell. Somebody, guys like that. And those guys like 6'8", 6'10". The tallest heavyweights, the Klitschko's what, 6'6", 6'7"?
Almost 7 feet, man.
No, they like 6'6", 6'7". Yeah, they're not that. They're not going to compare to compared to LeBron James. Let's just say Shaquille O'Neal was a boxer. Athletic as he was in his prime. Those guys would be heavyweight champions.
Heavyweight champs. That's true.
You understand? But all our young kids are going to, you know, basketball or football, and but people fail to realize football and basketball have more injuries than boxing.
That's true. That's true. And so, with that being the case, is that something that you think, you know, Main Event, this gym is trying to change? Is that a part of your passion as well?
Well, you can. I mean, we have pro athletes come in here, and we have football players, and we have high school football players and basketball players come in, but they're not trying to turn to boxing, because if you go to NBA, that's guaranteed money, right?
Right.
you go to NFL, you gonna get a signing bonus, right?
Exactly.
Boxing, you gotta grind, and it's a hard road.
So you gotta love it. It's gotta be in you. It's gotta be who you are, and that's how you stay in the game.
It gotta be in you.
You see, my opinion is when you put your, like when I do my son with football, you introduce boxing too. It's options, just like you would introduce basketball or baseball. The other way, you see a lot of football players when they don't make it, they try to jump into boxing, and it's a whole nother animal. But if you already give them the schooling, like we had a football player for the Ravens that was boxing as a kid, and when they went in that little drought, he went back to boxing. And he did good.
And I didn't know that.
That's to me, that's what you should do. Let him learn that toolage as a kid, so when he get older, if he want to come back to it,
he'll have skill set.
He'll have a better chance. He'll have a better chance than he would as if he didn't know it at all.
You're right. Because once you try to come into boxing at an older age, it's not gonna work out for you. Man. Most of the people are athletes, like Too Tall Jones. He tried it. What's that? Mark Gastineau. He tried it. It didn't work out.
I'm Gill, the basketball player. He even tried.
And was it Turner Gill? Vince Gill.
Vince Gill.
And it didn't work for him.
Wow.
So it's only gonna work to a certain level.
Kendall Gill.
Yeah, Kendall Gill. It's gonna work to a certain level. When you try to get to the ESPNs and the Showtime, that's when you're gonna get exposed.
Right. And so, like you said, introduce it early. You know, get it in and teach them that skill set. They'll have something else to fall back on.
Taught
or they can fall in love with it all together and just say, hey, I want to be a boxer, just like your son did, right?
Right. But the point he made, they got to be taught correct.
That's
you know
true.
What I'm saying?
That's true.
You know, like you can teach me how to drive a car all day, but if you teach me the wrong way, I'm not gonna get my driver's license.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? So it got to be taught correct.
Exactly.
You know?
I definitely agree with you, and that's what you do here at Main Event, right?
Right. You
teach them well in Main Event.
The basics, man.
The basics.
Yes. That's what it is.
The analogy I'm going to use, like when you go to the DMV to get your driver's license, you got to drive at the 10 and 2, right?
10 and 2.
But now, when you get your car out here on the road, you can drive any way you want. But as soon as you get ready to crash that car, what's the first thing you do? You go back to the basics. You go back to the 10 and 2.
Right? Exactly.
And so that's what, wherever you go to train at, or wherever you go to learn how to box, you need to know that trainer is teaching you correct by the basics, because after you get in trouble, you're gonna go back to what you know. And if you go back to something wrong, you're gonna get hurt, and your career is not gonna be as long as it would be if you were taught the correct way.
Exactly. And we appreciate you for being on the show, Ed. And this has been another edition of Inside the Ropes, man, where we talk boxing all the time. That's what it is.
Also, let me give you want to give a shout out to real quick?
Shout out to whole Baltimore, where I'm from, B-More, baby. I want to shout out my family, my wife, my kids, everybody, my main people, my best friends. Rallo got shot you out. Right. He the one that introduced me to him.
Awesome.
You know what I'm saying? So
awesome.
My man Corey Spinks, Chrissy Spinks, right. My peoples, everybody I know, Mike Connors, all y'all.
That's what it is.
I want to give a shout out to all the boxing coaches out there doing the right thing, man. Keeping these young kids up. Yeah. And also North Carolina will be there this weekend. We're gonna show y'all what we know. We don't ride horses down here. We're not country. We're gonna show y'all what we're doing. We're gonna box.
Exactly.
I got to shout out South Carolina. They made my daughter who she is today. Yeah. I got a shot.
His daughter's a track star.
Wow.
Tell me about your daughter real quick. Give us about 2 more seconds, cameraman.
She wants to stay here. First for the school, Westwood. First one to do it. History made the school, brand new school opened up. She won state in the 1 and the 2.
Awesome.
Been to the national several times. She do her thing. She working hard. She's up in Spartanburg Methodist right now, getting her GPA up, and then she's going to transfer to a D1. I'm not going to say which one it's going to be yet. Right. It's her choice. Right. But that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. And Breon, when you come back, I'm racing you. 60 yards.
He ain't ready.
Shouts out, Brianna.
So that was another segment of Inside the Ropes. Thank you for your support.
Yep.
Hit us on YouTube. Go to my page, Inside the Ropes on Facebook.
Yep.
Thank you for your support.